from Bill Barton's book, Recovering for Psychological Injuries. Bill Barton is here with us today. Could you read your tip, please, Bill?
Sure, Michael. Thank you. And in no other area is the expert's testimony more important to the success of a case than in claims of psychological injury. Well, let's think about that. That's quite a Kantian statement, in no other area. I've thought about that, and let me tell you why I believe it's at least equal to an engineer in any kind of a mechanical case. I think that, frankly, these injuries, nobody can see them. They're emotional. The preferred treatment of choice is let's talk about it. And furthermore, the experts often, they have this sorry, Michael, no disrespect, but their facial hair, and they think they're Sigmund Freud lookalikes or something. And they have this arcane Byzantine language, which is so obtuse that nobody can understand them when they get into the psychiatric nomenclature. And so this is really a problem. And you're supposed to convince people that an injury they can't see is big and it's supposed to give a lot of money for it? Really? Well, let's talk about how you go about that. I'm going to give you a couple of simple techniques. I think that the first thing you need to do is think about going to your Bible, a DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 5. It came out in 2013, and I think in another year or two we'll be getting DSM-6. And I take, let's use post-traumatic stress disorder, 309.81, and I actually take the diagnostic criteria from the book, and I enlarge it and have the expert step up and say, Doctor, would you take us to school for a moment, respectfully? Would you show us the criteria that you've applied through the book? And is this a book of medicine? It is. DSM-5 is a book of medicine dealing with the area of psychiatry and psychology. Number two, would you go down each one of the criteria and read it for us and then explain to us what facts you relied upon? And remember, I think it's under 803 sub 4. It's always an exception to the hearsay rule, anything an expert relies upon pursuant to forming their diagnosis or treatment. So in it all comes. It's an exception to the hearsay rule. They relied upon it. And they go down each separate criteria. And then when they're through and they explain the facts in support of that, I have them check it off. And then I offer as demonstrative evidence to help illustrate the oral testimony of the witness, the diagnostic criteria, and in it comes. And it goes back to the jury room and it keeps on testifying for you. So I think that's kind of a nice talisman or model to use. It's been very effective for me. What I'd like you to think about now is I'm going to talk, just to go a little off record, but there's a paper I'm going to post on my website probably in about 2 weeks. And it deals with recovering for psychological injuries, and it gives you a good working model of the new DSM-5 PTSD. And why am I saying that? Because believe it or not, before 1980, PTSD didn't exist. It wasn't in DSM-1 or DSM-2. It wasn't until the Vietnam conflict and the returning veterans faced the horrors of war, and it became part of our cultural dialogue. Then, frankly, with the women's movement and matters of sexual exploitation, and look at today, the idea of public violence and shooting and children in schools, it's very much a part of our public dialogue. But that wasn't always true. When I first started doing these cases in the early 70s, there was no PTSD. Can you believe that? It didn't exist. It wasn't a page in a book. I found that very interesting at the time. And finally, the literature started catching up with the reality that we've all lived. And there it is. So I take this pretty seriously, and I think you need to work with your experts very carefully to make sure that they drop all the big words. They don't need them. Just go right down the diagnostic criteria, read them, and then what facts. And then also what I want to add is anticipate any causation questions. Because when you have somebody that's emotionally injured, one of the great defenses is to point out how they were a basket case ahead of time. And of course, between two friends, that's the as-is instruction, previous infirm condition, that you own their best facts. So don't minimize that at all. And it's appropriately addressed by the law. And the new DSM-5 talks about predisposition very explicitly. So I'm going to have that paper on my website. It's worthy of you referencing. It's there for your public access. And this is not a matter of just standing up and mumble jumbo.
We'll get the link to that if you'll send that, Bill, and we'll put it
You
in
bet. I
in this post. Thank you for being very specific in what you're suggesting we do. It's very wise. I've learned recently, I can't remember who taught it to me, that you're right. The public had never heard of PTSD, and now I understand there's actually the military uses certain diagnostic tools. It's beyond DSM, but definitions of PTSD for the military. So it's very
in fact,
interesting.
when you study the literature, first responders in military are trained in advance. That's what they do. They deal with conflict and drama. And they are actually, it's interesting, those people rarely have an immediate symptom. It's usually delayed. And DSM, the PTSD is one of the few that it does not require an immediate emotional response because there may be a numbing, an intentional avoidance. And for first responders in military, they will ignore it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it doesn't have its impact. It's just delayed.
That hits home. I'm sorry, that hits home for me. My brother's a helicopter pilot for Life Flight. So seeing this stuff and hearing him talk. So this is very helpful this morning. I am going to get a quick word in about your facial hair comment, that for a long time, I had thought that you had to be clean shaven to be a successful trial lawyer. And what I realized was the rule that's more important than that, which is to be yourself and be comfortable in your skin in the courtroom. My first big trial win, I was wearing a beard. That was helpful to me to realize it doesn't matter how you look, what you wear. More important, be comfortable in who you are.
And Michael, I'm looking across the room at a beautiful photograph of Abraham Lincoln, and he looks very good in a beard. Thank you.
Thanks for being here today, Bill.
All right. Thank you.
While we take that all in from Bill Barton, let's pause for a moment, take a deep breath together, and be grateful to be alive this Friday. May the work that we do today help reduce suffering in the world, in our lives, the lives of our clients, and the lives of all beings. May we help repair the world. May we fiercely and compassionately advocate for our clients and champion their stories. I'm going to ring a bell 3 times now. This can take you into a meditation practice, a prayer practice, or just remind you, it's Friday. Wake up. Go out, do good things, and have fun while you're doing it. Have a good day. Have a great weekend. Have a great day and a great week.